Hello everybody, this is En route, and today we're talking tariffs, Trump's tariffs to be exact. And so I was talking a little bit about this earlier in the year, how we should be watching for tariffs, especially when it comes to tariffs towards the UK, Europe, things like that. And so as we see, yesterday he signed a bunch of tariffs off to go and do their thing. And so here I want to kind of talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of this. So, I kind of see what his intention is, but that's not going to be without huge backlash in the beginning, because what is happening is that he's trying to find a way to make it so that the American citizen buys American. And I get that, most of what made America great back in the day, where everybody says we want to go back to the 50s, what made it great was the fact that we were, we had our own textiles, we had our own, infrastructure when it came to, big factories and things like that. And now we have outsourced all of our talent in that way. And, when that happens, what happens? We get used to and more comfortable with cheap commodities. And because we've gotten so used to cheap everything, we have neglected to see what that makes us become, right? When you don't do the work yourself, you don't understand the value of the work that it takes to actually build something or make something or, whatever. And I think in the long run, it will be a valuable lesson, but it's going to be a very painful lesson. And, I think that's what a lot of people are talking about. Initially, this is going to be really rough. And people across, other nations across the world are going to retaliate, right? So that's what comes with the territory. People have been, and because the thing is that it's not just the U.S. that has gotten comfortable and complacent. It's other countries that have been comfortable and complacent with the amount of money that America gives them, right? And so, that's why when, just think about it. When you go to other countries, how entitled people feel to the white man's dollar or the American's dollar, the European's dollar, right? And how many people get, robbed and taken advantage of in other countries because of that complacency. They're rich, right? Even though really we're not that rich, a lot of the times, we're struggling too. It's just that our dollar is just worth more. But from our perspective where we're standing, we have to pay more for everything, right? And so it's not as simple as, who's rich and who's poor. It's a classism thing kind of happening, right? And so this is where it's important to know basic skills, right? Like, I see that a lot of high schools have pretty much eliminated like the auto mechanic, like, becoming a mechanic kind of thing. Like they've gotten rid of a lot of classes that are going to make America what it used to be, like wood shop and things like that. Well, and, I'm not going to, that's still there, but it's not at the capacity that is significant. Like it's enough to open up a kid's interest, but it's not enough to, really give them all of the tools they need to be successful in that career, right? So, for instance, I took like stage set design. So, I have some knowledge of set design, but set design didn't really tell me like the full mechanics of things, right? I really didn't understand what I was doing until I got older. And I feel like if we focused more on teaching our people how to be more hands-on, because let's just be a little bit real. The 9-to-5 desk job is soul crushing, monotonous work. And most people in America are told to go to college, get a job at a desk somewhere, and go and do monotonous work, right? And what we're missing is the industry, the industrial part of what America was. You can't even get textiles here. You can't in bulk for a really reasonable price. Because why? Because it's made in America. So we're going back to the tariffs. It's made in America. So it's going to be more expensive because the supply and demand is not there. We don't have that big supply like China would, where they can sell things for a couple pennies on the dollar. In America, we don't have that. We don't have that giant warehouse of things that we need to do certain things, because everything is outsourced from across the way and shipped over, right? And so we have sent away literally everything that would make us independent. And so this is going to be very painful, because it's going to take us actually boots on the ground, getting the work physically done. And not a lot of people like to do that here in this country, because everybody's on the computer, everybody's doing everything online. And while that has its place, and that's also very important, it's not going to be the only thing. Like what the problem with America is that we want it to be this advanced civilization without understanding what holds it up really, right? And it's that industrial work. It's that mechanical work. It's that boots on the ground work, like, let's say you wanted to create a sewing business. You're not going to go and find any amount of fabric that is going to help you actually like offload that business, and make it extremely successful without putting out a really pretty penny, right? And so everybody spends all their money in China, right? And it's convenient. It's so convenient. It's so freaking convenient to go and spend your money in China, because we don't have the variety. We don't have what we need as a country to survive on our own, right? So I know my thoughts are just all over the place, because this is such a big deal. My thoughts are all over the place about this. But we cannot be as an advanced civilization if all of the things that we depend on to survive on a daily basis, like toothbrushes and sponges and just cups and plates and spoons and things you don't really think of, and nuts and bolts and coffee machines and toaster ovens and teapots and air purifiers and mirrors and tampons and all of the things, the day-to-day things that we need, if we continue, we're always just going to be dependent on another society, right? And so how can we be the most advanced society if all of our stuff is outsourced? If all of our stuff is, dependent on another country's decision on whether or not to share with us and make a deal with us, right? And so he's pissed off about, Trump is upset about some of these tariffs that are put on us, because it's unfair, because other countries they've gotten spoiled, right? That's how he feels, right? And so when you think about what it is, the cost of living in America, when you think about that, and you think about what everybody's going through, like, there's just so many things to think of. Of course, it's probably going to end in a lot of fire. This might end up making some kind of depression. And I'm very aware of that. And I see this is why a lot of people are pissed off, but the ball's going to drop eventually. We can do it now, we can do it later, we can do it in 20 years. But the ball's going to drop eventually. And so here it is. Here it is. Now, this could all be intentionally done to destroy us. Maybe this will destroy us. Maybe it will destroy us because maybe no one will rise to the occasion to get things done, right? You know, what does it take to actually get the fabric, the cotton, the fur, like all of that? Think about that. Like, what does it take? Just if we're just thinking textiles, what is it, the whole process behind that? Do we even really have the infrastructure, and who's going to rise to the occasion to fill these specific roles in our country, right? At a high enough capacity to where we don't have to depend on another country. Who's going to do that? You know? So there's a lot to think about, you know? And if we don't, well, it could be pretty bad. It could be pretty bad. So there's a lot to think about. I'm here on Reddit reading certain comments about this, so I'm just gonna go through. I don't care what side of the tariff thing you stand on, because this is like a loaded topic, a loaded issue. And yeah, I don't really care. It's not that I don't care, it's that I understand the complexity, how complex life is, and it's almost like there's just no easy way to go about certain things, you know? So here, this dude, a couple days ago, he was like, I honestly believe Trump got a failing grade on tariffs at Wharton and is now proving that idiot professor wrong. Okay, so I guess this is maybe it's a good comment. I firmly believe he is tanking the market so that his cronies can buy everything up on a cheap profit under the guise of tariffs. He will lift them piece by piece once industries pay him off, but he is not worried about prosecution or consequences. If they fail, then they will be broke too. A dollar will be worth zero of itself. Having a million or a billion or trillion of something worth nothing still leaves you with nothing. I agree. Another one in response to that, a lot of their wealth is in markets. A major market crash would be terrible for Elon and many other companies that spend most of their cash in stock buybacks. And you know, it's funny, a lot of people said that, you know, Trump doesn't really have full control of a lot of this stuff because of things and forces unknown and unseen to most people. And I was speaking with a Mason, and he was talking about how they were going to use him as, you know, the next puppet instead of killing him, because you know what happened when he got shot in the ear and, you know, they try to, you know, make a hit on him. Well, now they're just like, well, you know what, since we don't want to make more of a martyr out of him, why don't we just use him as a, you know, our dummy and against his will. So, you know, we don't really know what's going on at the top. We don't really know what's what at the end of the day, because we could just get lied to, right? A lot of times. Yeah, there's ways of, you know, tracking stuff and whatever, but we don't really know what's in people's hearts. You know, at the end of the day, they can press that red button and, you know, what would happen, I don't know. So there's a lot of things to think of, and that's why I don't really take anything at face value, because everything just feels like it's just like a bunch of information coming at me, and I just have to consider it however I want. Everything's left up to interpretation now. You know, politics isn't just facts, it's deciphering hidden meanings half the time, and you know and figuring out what people's true intention is, because people in politics make things look one way and they're a completely different other way. And you know, that's been a lot of the pattern unfortunately, when it comes to this, which it obviously shouldn't be that way. Let me just read through a couple more comments. It's okay, here's another one. China, Japan, and South Korea uniting in response for the first time in 5 years on a major economic issue. European and Canadian boycotts of U.S. goods and imposing or raising tariffs in response. Yeah, I'd say Trump tariffs have already failed. So, of course, retaliation, of course, is, of course. And so when people are just like, when of course, they're going to retaliate, it does make it seem like this is kind of like a purposely crappy move, right? Let's see what else. They fear they know exactly what they're doing, starving the 99%, people who struggle to survive to have no time to fight. And I agree. It's about, a lot of this stuff is about overwhelming people with survival and not being able to take a break, live, take care of their health, and this is what happens in a depression. People die because they ate, they're starving, or they can't afford something, or they don't have the means to get somewhere or do things. And this has been, this is what I am hoping it's not going to be as bad as like the 1920s, but they always say there's a 100-year cycle, and I just don't know that the effects of this is going to be, because things are already so expensive for the common person, the day-to-day, the regular person. Things are just so expensive for not even just the common person, even people that are like middle class, high middle class. A lot of people are dealing with issues when it comes to the price of groceries, the price of gas, the price of just rent and everything. And the thing about it is that, even people in the upper middle class are noticing these things, because the one thing that isn't changing is the income that we make, right? And so it's not, it's not in line with the income that we make. And so it's becoming a lot more difficult. And so now it's like, now we have to be so disciplined as possible, just so that we can make sure that we eat. And, then what does that do? That starves out third places, that starves out movie theaters, that starves out restaurants, that starves out places where people have fun, let go, unwind, and take a break from it all. It starves those places out. And so then when no one's really taking a break because they can't, then you start to collapse the system. And it's it's a big issue, it's a big problem. And that's that's a lot of the reason why I live the way I live, do the things I do, and make the choices that I make when it comes to survival, because you just never know what's going to happen. You never know. And being well versed in skills, just simple everyday life survival skills that are not always on the computer, it's going to be more valuable than we think. Because what happens when because America thinks that we think we're untouchable, we think, oh, it can't happen to us, right? We just think, oh, we're just so we're such the wealthiest country in the world, and I get it, we think we're untouchable, but you see what happens in other countries and how people have to really scrap it out to survive. And knowing certain things, being educated on just certain things like building and electrical and just some mechanical things, just being a little bit knowledgeable in these things are going to be helpful in giving you skill sets that don't always involve the lights being on, or the grid being on. And I'm not saying it's going to be a grid down situation, but I'm saying it's just having that in yourself allows you to have that confidence that even if you're good. A lot of people are just scared because they're so connected to the system in place that is man-made. Men are imperfect, and yet, you know, they don't think this is the problem with, you know, societies like ourselves, is because we're just like we shine so bright. We shine so fast and so bright, and then we get ahead of ourselves, and our heads get too big, and we think, you know, nothing can happen here just because it's America. And, you know, it's just like cycles happen. The world is always changing. Things are always changing. Nothing really stays the same, you know, and we all know that there's certain plans in place, and that the world is, you know, becoming a less private place. We have less privacy, you know. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to think about. And, you know, I make these videos so that people could think. But yeah, I don't mean to ramble on. I'm going to read a few more comments here, and then I'm going to cut this short. Here, this guy said, it's an experiment with what was the world's greatest, most successful economy. And why? Because the wealthy think they will save more in taxes than gain more in economic productivity. Fools. I agree with that. You know, things become more fruitful when people don't hate where they live. Things become more fruitful when people feel safe, protected, and able to thrive and work on things that make them feel happy, alive. You know, when you have time to have a hobby. In this economy, you know, hobbies are going to go out the window because people are not going to have time for them. And this is what I'm saying. It's like, making people more miserable isn't going to make the world better. You know, making things harder isn't going to make the world better. Making people less educated and is not going to make things better. It's not going to make things better. The more people that are more self-sufficient and more aware, the better things can be. But people want slaves instead of, you know, teammates. And, you know, I get it. You want to be the captain of the team, but what does it mean to be the captain of the team? It means to look out for the team, to have the best interest of the team, not just what's in it for you, right? And so when you benefit on the bones of your team, you really have nothing at the end of the day, because what are you ruling over? Mindless zombies that can't think for themselves? What does that make you? You know? And so I have no respect for a lot of these moves that are being made, but, you know, it could go many ways. It can go many ways. If you're trying to be positive, completely positive about it, yeah, we need to become a more independent country on our own and not be so dependent on other countries. But with that becomes a lot of things like thinking about, okay, well, and this is the issue. This was the big deal that I had about farming. If we can't import certain produce and certain foods and things like that, what's going to happen, right, to the overall health of our citizens, of our society? We have destroyed so much farmland, and so much of our farmland has been purchased from people and companies from overseas that is not accessible to, you know, Americans, and they're used acres and acres and acres, and then some people have more acres than they know what to do with, and they're doing nothing with them. And you think about that, it's just like, you know, I do worry a little bit. And then I walk through all these stores, Target, Walmart, Publix, wherever you go, gas stations, Walgreens, CVS, and it's kind of sparse, you know, it's kind of sparse. Things are changing, and, you know, maybe it's happening slow, but I see it. It's drastic. You know, you used to be able to buy Folgers coffee for like $8. Now it's $16. Almost $17 to buy a little canister of Folgers coffee at Publix or Walmart or Target or wherever. It's ridiculous. So, you know, you think about how much coffee does America grow, right? How much avocado does America grow? And then things start getting a little bit more like, oh, shit, you know? We have become too dependent. And, you know, let's see. Does the rug get pulled from underneath us? I don't know. And that's why a lot of people need to start rising to the occasion, because things are going to change quickly. And it's very unfortunate. I was hoping that a major thing that would happen during this administration is that we would start opening up a lot of our oil reserves so that we can lower the gas and stop dealing with other countries' petrol. But I'm not sure where that's going right now. But let's I made a lot of points here. You know what? I made a lot of points here. I appreciate you watching this video, you know, and I just want you to think about that. Just think about that. You know, you're in America right now. Just think about that. You know, this is important, and it does affect you. It affects your day-to-day. It affects your life. It affects your family. It affects your community. And so, you know, I just want to leave you with that food for thought, and I will be back sporadically. This is En Route, and I'm out.